Okay. Ve'elu hinan esrafim. We just did the parak. Before we got a little distracted by Ben Sarah Meir, but we're talking generally about where you have skila. Now we're talking about where you have the einish of misas sreifa. So there's two general areas that sreifa applies. Haba isha ubita, someone who's born isha ubita, ubas kain shedinsa. We've come across bas kain, but in addition to that, is being born an isha ubita. Now let's try to be masada this in some kind of coherent fashion. So there are three psukim, three relevant psukim on the topic of isha ubita, or legabi this iser sreifa of being ba on a woman and her relatives, as well as we'll see a man and his own daughter. So the first pasuk that we have to know is the pasuk that says the einish of sreifa. That's where it all comes from. Vesha sheyikach as isha ves ima. Someone will take a woman that Bapasha means his wife and her mother. Zimahi be'ech yisreifa is going to be a chiyuv of sreifa. So the most pashta taich of that would be a woman and her mother, meaning a man who's ba on his wife's mother. His mother-in-law is going to be chayiv sreifa. Oisai ve'eshen. So that's going to be a machlokes Abaya and Rava about what there's going to be a machlokes Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel of what that means. Oisai ve'eshen. And there'll be a machlokes Abaya and Rava about how to interpret that machlokes between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel. The pasuk uses, it's going to be important, the word zima in this pasuk. The zima is going to be the hook for the gzeir shava to apply this einish in other cases. Okay, so that's the basis. And as we're going to see in the Gemara is going to go right into it. They're going to say this is going to be the source when the Torah says Elohin and Esrafin Abal Isho Bita. That's a reference to this pasuk that said the einish of sreifa, and then the Mishnah is going to continue on and say yesh b'chlal isha ubita. The Torah said there's this einish of sreifa for isha ubita, but that extends also to bitay ubas benai. It refers to the man if he has a daughter or he has a granddaughter, either from his daughter or from his son. Just like the Torah said legabe isha ubita, meaning v'pashtas, a woman and her mother, his mother-in-law, that is the einish of sreifa, that will also darshan to apply that as well to a man's daughter and his granddaughter through either his daughter or his son. Now, this is talking about a bitai, the man's daughter, not through his wife, because a daughter of his wife is going to be the next chelik of the Mishnah. That's a separate pasuk. And we could even, once we're here already, this bita yubas benoi is going to be a pasuk. Evras, this is a pasuk by Yikra Yud Ches Yud. That is learned from pasuk. Evras bas bincha oy bas bitcha loy segala evasa ki evas chahena. So that's where we see the iser of bitay ubas bincha ubas bitcha. That's going to be the pasuk that we're going to learn out again from the pasuk that said shreifa by his mother. So that's the first. So that's the first tranche of iser that is learned out from shreifa, and then the next one is ubas ishtoi, ubas bita, ubas bena. The second group is his wife's daughter as well as his wife's. But the first one, when we're talking about bita, you're talking about his bita not from his wife. Now, meaning this is a daughter out of wedlock. Now we're talking about the daughter of his wife ubas bita ubas bina, as well as his wife's daughter's daughter or his wife's son's daughter, his wife's granddaughter, either through a son or a father. So that's the second group. And the final group is his mother-in-law, as well as his mother-in-law's mother and his father-in-law's mother. Now, we're going to have to understand, the Gemara is going to say the obvious answer. We're saying we learn everything out from Isha Ubita. We're saying Isha Ubita, and that refers to Chamoise, name Chamoise, name Chama, but at least it refers to Chamoise. The Gemara is going to get into exactly what it means, but we already mentioned it, so why is the Torah saying it again? Why is the Mishnah repeating it? We're saying that we're learning it out, but that's where we're learning everything else out from. We're learning everything out from Chamoise. So the Gemara is going to answer, it's coming to include also, it's also coming to include Eim Chamoise, which wasn't the source, right? The pasuk had said, "Isha sheyikach es isha ve'es ima." So the pashas, that's only referring to chamoisei. Doesn't refer to chamois, aim chamoisei and aim chamav. So those are, once we have to say also aim chamoisei, aim chamav, that are also learned out from different. That's again that machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Abaye and Rava. So once we say that, we also say chamoisei, even though that's really the source of everything else. So again, just a quick recap of the Mishnah. Okay, this Mishnah is telling us the Isser. What do you have an Isser Sreifa? Where do you have that a person gets a Misa of Sreifa? So first, one of them is Bas Kayin. We're not addressing that right now. That's one group. But the other one is Bitai, his daughter. So the Mishnah says that you learn out from the case. There are three groups of three that are all learned out from Isha Ubita. Isha Ubita was where the Torah says a chiyuv of Sreifa by his chamoisei, by a man's mother-in-law, that there's a Isser Sreifa if he's ba on his mother-in-law, on his wife's mother. And the Mishnah says, we learn out from there that if he's ba, if a man is ba on his own daughter, as well as, meaning his daughter not from his wife, that was born out of wedlock, as well as her, one of her, as well as his other grandchildren, a grandchild through that daughter, or a grandchild from his son, a granddaughter from his son. We're also going to learn there's going to din sreifa from the din of chamaisai, even though it doesn't say it by his daughter or by his granddaughters. Secondly, we learn out a wife's daughter as well as a wife's granddaughters. Those are also going to be learned from his mother-in-law, where it says Sreifa by his mother-in-law. That will apply as well to a man's wife's daughters and granddaughters. And finally, it also tells you not just his mother-in-law, but also his mother-in-law's mother, as well as his father-in-law's mother. So that's the third group of three. So you have a total of 9 Isurim of Sreifa that are learned legabe that are learned from Isha Ubita, which directly references the mother-in-law. So that's Gemara. The way the Mishnah had said it, Habal Isha, it says, Habal Isha Ubita, someone who's ba on a woman and a mother. Shenasa Bita like Tani. It was referring to just the mother-in-law, it should say Habal Isha Shenasa Bita. It should have said someone who is ba on a woman who he married his daughter. That would be a direct reference to the mother-in-law. When it says Habal Isha Ubita, that sounds like he was over on two people. He's over on being ba on his Isha as well as to his mother. You see that there's an Isser on both of them. It's not just an Isser on his mother-in-law, it's also an Isser on his wife. So Dr. Gemara, that can't be. What sense does it make to say he's Isser on his wife? First of all, it would sound like his wife is gonna get Sreifa. His wife didn't do anything wrong. His wife married him, and then he was born. This horrible guy was born his mother-in-law. That doesn't mean his wife did anything wrong. So there's no Isser, and the truth is there is no Isser, even after he's born as Chamaisa, he's born as Chamaisa b'Shaygig. It doesn't make him Isser to be bar on his wife. There's no Isser there. So what does it mean? So it's saying two people are Isser. Maniu Chamaisa ve'em Chamaisa. It must be referring to not just his mother-in-law, but also the mother of his mother-in-law. So when it says Isha Ubita in the Mishnah, it's referring to the mother-in-law as well as that mother-in-law's mother, which the Mishnah at the end does include that as one of the people that is a Sreifa. It's not just for his mother-in-law, it's also his mother-in-law's mother. Uktani, Yesh B'chal Isha Ubita. And the Mishnah continues, and it says, this is used as the example, this is the source for all the three different groupings of where we see that there's an Issa Sreifa. We learn it out from all Isha Ubita. Machlal, the Travayu Ksivi Behedya. That seems to indicate that the pasuk that says Ve'isha sheyikach as Isha ve'es Ima is not referring to like it would seem on the surface. It's referring to someone who's ba in addition to his wife. Isha refers to his wife, as well as Ves Ima and her mother. Zima hi beish Yisrael means it's to his wife and his mother-in-law.
It's not a wife; it's a woman.
Well, no, but
you're saying it's his mother-in-law and his mother.
Yeah, so it must refer to a woman, and that woman, Isha Ves Ima, the Isha is really his mother-in-law.
Right.
Ves Ima is her mother. Because we want to say both of them, like we said, the Mishnah is mashma that both of them are asur, and it's not true about his wife, so therefore it must be going one step up about his mother-in-law as well as her mother. So that's mashma, that's what the pasuk is referring to. V'hanach medrasa asya. Then and everything else is learned from a drasha from those two. So this is good according to Abai, who says that it's just a machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. We're going to have this machlokes on the next block, on Daf Ayin Vav. They're going to argue about what the mashmayis of this, what is this pasuk of Isha sheyikach as Isha ve'es Ima zimahi. They both will agree that this Oisai ve'es hen, the pasuk says Oisai ve'es hen, they are Oisai ve'es hen and her, Oisai ve'es hen and her. So one says that that's coming to tell you that they both are going to agree that you're going to be chayiv even after the death of his wife. He's still going to be mechuyev for being ba on chamaisa. But they're going to be chaylik about whether the pasuk, when it says Isha ve'es Ima, is that a direct reference to the mother-in-law, or is that a reference just to the mother? So Masi Zaman Rabbi Akiva. It could be Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva would say that the pasuk of when it says Ima, that's a reference to the mother-in-law, to the mother-in-law's mother, right? So our Mishnah is telling you not just the mother, but as well as the mother-in-law's, not just the mother-in-law, but the mother-in-law's mother as well. And that's what the pasuk is taka referring to. And there will be Shmuel who argues, he'll agree that the din is, he'll have a different drasha to tell you the mother-in-law's mother, but it's not directly what the pasuk is referring to. And according to Rabbi Shmuel, you wouldn't be able to learn out it wouldn't make sense for the Mishnah to reference the mother-in-law's mother because she's not any more of a direct statement of the pasuk. It's also learned out from a drasha. It wouldn't make sense for the Mishnah to say that you learn out everything else from the mother-in-law's mother because she herself is learned out from a drasha. So, but Rabbi Akiva at least works out, according to Abaya. That he says the machlokes is whether his mother-in-law is going to be asa la'acha misa, and the outcome and we'll see this on the next plot. The outcome of that will be that everyone agrees that Eim Chamoisai is not in the pasuk. The question just is whether the pasuk is referring to whether it's asering, it's going to be taka machlokes between Rabbi Akiva and Yishmael about whether it's going to remain an Isser after the Misa, but everyone agrees that Eim Chamaisi is not referenced in the Pasuk. Masi Simani, who is our Mishnah like? Our Mishnah doesn't make any sense because it seems to refer to Chamaisai and Eim Chamaisai. And Eim Chamaisai is all, according to both Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael, is learned out from a drasha. Amalach Rava, Tani Hacha, Tani Abalisha, Shenasa Bita. You have to understand the Mishnah that even though the Mishnah said Habal Isha Ubita, what it really means is Isha Shenasa Bita. The Mishnah is only referencing the mother-in-law. It's not referencing the mother-in-law's mother. It's not saying there's two Isurim here. The whole thing is not the whole original diak that we made in the Mishnah is lav dafka. You don't either you change the lashon or it's not what the Mishnah means.
Do we have a shita that we don't darshan a few misa from
in Ein Shemin Adin? This is not a kal v'chaymer.
So from his
You can learn out. You can learn out a drasha to tell you a chiyuv misa. We just don't. What the Ein Shemin Adin is, you don't learn it out from a kal v'chaymer. You don't say if this thing is chayiv, then certainly this other thing.
It's only kal v'chaymer that's restricted.
Yeah.
Hakesh or anything else.
Yeah. Listen, we've been doing it the whole last two prakim.
So it's only kal v'chaymer. So kal v'chaymer is sort of like an inferior limud.
It's right because it's logic, and you can't depend on logic. I'm just saying this is my own way of making it easy to remember. I don't know that that's really the svara, but kal v'chaymer is the logical thing, and we don't impose a punishment based on our puny human logic. If there's a drasha, that's what the Torah's message is. But kal v'chaymer is something we're figuring out on our own. Sagt die Gemara weiter. Yesh b'chal isha ubita chamoisa ve'em chamoisa ve'em chamav. Right, we skip all the way to the last part of the Mishnah. The Mishnah said one of the things that's included in isha ubita is chamoisa ve'em chamoisa ve'em chamav. So we just said a machlokes between Abaye and Rava about what the machlokes Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva is. According to Abaye, Rabbi Akiva would hold that both chamoisai as well as Eim chamoisai is included in the pasuk of Isha Ubita. According to, but Rabbi Akiva would hold not. Rabbi Akiva would hold yes, it's included. Rabbi Shmuel would hold not. And according to Rava, according to both Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, it's only referring to chamoisai and not Eim chamoisai. So Labaya Aidi de Kaboy lemisna Eim chamav. Since we had to say, even though it says chamoisai and Eim chamoisai are both included in the pasuk, but we still had to darshan Eim chamav, the mother of his father-in-law, So Taninami chamoisai ve'Eim chamoisai. We said the other two. The Rava, at least that would be according to Abaye, according to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shmuel, it would really be the same as Rava. The Rava Aidikaboy lemisne Eim chamav ve'Eim chamoisai Taninami chamoisai. According to Rava, all the Mishnah, all the pasuk of Isha Ubita refers to as chamoisai, so it has to include both the mother of his mother-in-law as well as the mother of his father-in-law. Okay. Minoani mili. How do we learn out all these things that are mentioned in the Mishnah? All 9 of the drashas. It's not really 9. We basically already know that there's a machlokes about the first 2, about chamoisai and maybe about Eim chamoisai. About those might be in Isha Ubita. That's going to be on the next plot. But where do we learn out everything else? So we have a brayso, the Tana Rabbah. Isha sheyikach as Isha ve'es ima. That is the pasuk that says Shreifa, and that's the only place that says Shreifa. So we're going to have to learn everything. That's going to have to be the source. That's talking about, again, his mother-in-law, and either his mother-in-law's mother or maybe just the mother-in-law. And we're going to have to learn out from there both the husband, the man who's the perpetrator over here, his own daughter out of wedlock, and his granddaughters, as well as his wife's daughter and granddaughter. Ainly, so it says Isha v'Ima. Ainli ala Isha v'Ima. That only tells you a woman and her mother. Bas Isha ubas bitu ubas bena minayin. How do we know the second grouping that we said in the Mishnah of his wife's daughter as well as his wife's grandchildren, both through a daughter and a son? It says in this pasuk of Chamoisai, Isha Isha ves ima zima he. So it says a lashon of zima. V'neva lahalon zima. This is Erbas Isha Ubita Loisagala as Bas Benov as Bas Bita. This is where the Torah says the Azhara that you're not allowed to be ba on a woman, on his wife's daughter as well as his wife's grandchildren.
This is the one out of wedlock? This is the
No, this is Isha Ubita.
Right.
Erbas Isha, is this, no, this is not else. This is talking about Isha Ubita, so this is his wife.
All right.
Yeah. So his wife's children. It's funny because we're skipping to the third thing.
Right.
Yeah. In the Mishnah. We're not going in chronological order of the Mishnah.
Right. As long as they don't lose it completely.
The reason is because this is a more direct limud. It's Zima Zima. The one for his own children is going to have to be a 2-step Gzeira Shava.
Thank you.
So we learned out of Gzeira Shava. Malalam bito bas bina. Just like by Afkan bito bas bina. What does that mean? As far as bito bas nasha. I'm saying just like bito bas bina are going to be aser is an asara, so too there's going to be bito bas bina. They're going to have the same einish of misa of sreifa that we had by chamoisei. Minayin lasas scharim k'nekevis. What do we know to make scharim a zachar, a male, the same as nekevis? Nemakan zima v'nemalan lon zima. Malan scharim k'nekevis afkan scharim k'nekevis. Just like we say over there that the scharim are like nekevis, so too the scharim are not nekevis. The Gemara the Gemara is going to explain what this means. It's going to be a couple of possibilities. We won't even say what the pashto pshat is because it's not directly obvious. Minayin lasas lamata kalamayla. How do we know to make what's on bottom like what's on top? Nebakan zima nebalan zima malalon lamata kalamayla afkan lamata kalamayla. We learn out that what's on the bottom is going to be like what's on top, just like over here it's like what's lamata's kalamayla. So too over here what's lamata kalamayla. Umakan lamayla kalamata avlalon lamayla kalamata. It's going to go both ways. What's on top is going to be like what's on bottom. What's on bottom is going to be like on top. So the Gemara is going to say, Amar Mar, minayin lasas charim k'nekevis. What is this first thing that we said? How do we know to make this charim k'nekevis? Mais charim k'nekevis. What does that mean? Ilema bas bina kebas bita. If it's coming to tell you that his son's daughter is going to be the same as his daughter's daughter. That means his wife's son's daughter is the same thing as his wife's daughter's daughter. The pasuk already said both of them together in the pasuk. It says, the Torah said them together. So what do you have to learn? One out from the other. Ella, aim chamav ke'aim chamoisei. Rather, it's coming to tell you that scharim is the k'nekevis. It's coming to tell you that his father's mother is treated the same as his mother-in-law's father. So that the zachar, the father-in-law, this man's father-in-law, he's going to have the same thing that his mother is going to be asked to him, just like his mother-in-law's mother is asked to him. So Gemara, Gemara asks, but we're going in this brisa. The brisa had not yet mentioned a word about his mother's mother, and now you're jumping and you're saying that his father-in-law's, his mother-in-law's mother. We never said his mother-in-law's mother. You're saying that his father-in-law's mother is the same as his mother-in-law's mother. We never said his mother-in-law's mother. How could you learn out? How could the brisa be telling you something that we hadn't yet explained? Amar Abaye Hakikama. Minayin lase ser haba mimenu k'se'er haba mimena. It's talking about the man as well as it's talking about comparing his own direct descendants, those who come from him, to say that they're similar to the descendants who come from his wife. Nemar kan zima, but nemar zima. And we learn out, right, the pasuk, we haven't yet seen, where do we see his own children? So it's coming to tell you that the pasuk, we learned out already, we have a drasha to tell you that his wife's children are learned out zima from the din of his chamaisai. And now we're saying his own bita, his own daughter, as well as his granddaughters, are going to be learned out from his wife's daughter and granddaughters, because we have to learn out the einish of sreifa. We already learned out zima to tell you bita, his wife's descendants, and we're going to learn out from his wife's descendants, his own descendants. If he has children out of wedlock that are not from his wife, but they are his own children, his own daughter, as well as his own granddaughters, they're going to be asked to her from that. Frak Gemara. It doesn't say zima by his own children. That pasuk is ervas bas bincha, the daughter of the erva of his son's daughter, or bas bitcha, or his daughter's daughter. Lo segala ervasa ki ervasa hena. No word zima there. Amarava Amali Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi asya hena asya zima. Although it doesn't have the word zima, it has the word hena. And the pasuk by his wife's descendants also has the word hena, as well as it has the word zima. And then it uses, so we use hena to get from his descendants to his wife's descendants. And it also has the word zima by his wife's descendants, which it also has by chamaisai. So you do zima. So basically to reverse.
We quit asking this question. I think, but the pasuk you just said, Erbas bas bincha lo segala,
doesn't mention his own daughter. Is that what you're going to ask?
Sorry. It says kerbas hena, that hena, and then the next,
right.
And the hena is the other from Erbas isha bita lo segala, that pasuk.
Let's see.
The hena connects the two, and then you just take the zima that's in one.
It's a double gzeira shava. So to do it. To go from the source, it says zima by chamaisai that she gets sreifa. That tells you to his wife's descendants where it says zima as well, and it says hena there. Hena takes you, yeah. Listen, this I told Lucy before we started. Today was going to be a long slog, yeah. But this is, you should keep this in mind, the fact that we've never mentioned his own daughter, and this is going to go back to what you had said, that you can't say just because it mentions his granddaughters, how do we know his own daughter? Gemara is going to address that I don't know where, but somewhere later in this paragraph. Amar Rava, Amli Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Asya hena asya zima. Amar Mar. So we dealt with this charm kinekavis. We're saying that's telling you those that he is chayiv on, his descendants are going to be learned from her descendants. What does it mean? Lasas minayin lasas lamata klamay lamay lamata klamayla. What does that mean? Ilema bas beno bas bita. If you're saying it's referring to his wife's grandchildren. That's kabita. I'm sorry. Bas beno bas bita is kabita. The hadi adodi kashin. It's all in the same pasuk. So meaning his wife's descendants that they both learn together the Torah mentions both his wife's daughter as well as his wife's grandchildren. When it says lamata is kalamayla, it means to tell you that his mother-in-law's mother, as well as his father-in-law's father, are treated like his mother-in-law. The Torah says that his mother-in-law gets shreifa, and this Bryce is coming to tell you that it also applies to his mother-in-law and father-in-law's mother. This is not saying that what's on bottom is like what's on top. This is saying what's on top. If it's referring to higher up on the family tree, so it's saying what's on top is like what's on bottom. Let's switch around the lashon and the brisa. What it's saying is what's the higher up branch of the family tree is going to be similar to the lower branch. So the mother-in-law's mother and the father-in-law's mother are going to be treated just like the mother-in-law is going to be streifa. Ihachi nemer kan zima v'nemer lan zima u'mahashe inu like siva zima de du ksiva. Fact the Gemara. How could you say that we're learning it out? We say we know the lamaila kalamata because of zima, but the pasuk doesn't mention at all his father-in-law's mother. It's not mentioned in the pasuk. So how can you say you learned it out from Gzeira Shava? You have to. It can't be Gzeira Shava. It's not mentioned. So Amar Abaya Hachi Kama Minayin Lasa Shloisha Dairis Lamayla Kishloisha Dairis Lamata. How do we know to say that when it includes his mother-in-law, it also includes his mother-in-law's mother as well as his father-in-law's mother? We learn it out from his wife's descendants, that it includes not just his daughter and it also includes his granddaughters, or not his granddaughters, his wife's granddaughters. So since his wife goes down 2 dairis, it means her descendants, her direct descendants, as well as 1 step down. So when you go up, it also goes not just 1 step up, but 2 steps up. Nama lamata zima, v'nama lamayla zima. It says zima both by his wife's descendants, right? That's the pasuk of Isha Ubita, and it says Zima by Chamaisai, which says, it says Eras Isha Ubita, right? It says Eras Isha Ubita, which is his wife's descendants, and it says Isha Isha Ves Ima, which is referring to his mother-in-law. So just like by Isha Ubita, it's 2 dairis, so too Isha Ves Ima, it's 2 dairis. Ma lamata shleish dairis, af lamayla shleish dairis. Uma ba'oinish asa lamata kalamayla, af bazaranami asa lamayla kalamata. And it's going to go the other way around as well. Just like we said, Lagabi Einish, we said that we're going to make what's on bottom like on top. So too with the Isser, we're going to say, just like we're going to say that the Einish goes down. We learn out from Zima to tell you that a woman, his wife and her descendants, there's going to be an Einish of Sreif on them. We'll also go up and say that there's an Hazara on his wife as well as her father and mother, her mother and her father and mother's mothers. Ravashi says a different text. We're not going to switch it around. It's not going to be saying, it's going to be saying Lamaila, that Kalamata is Kalamayla. Umayla Mata, Lamata Be'isr. It's Taka referring to his mother-in-law's mother. We had asked, how could it be referring to his mother-in-law's mother and his father-in-law's mother? That was saying that Kalamayla is Kalamata, and we said that what's Lamata is Kalamayla. But when it says Lamata, what it means is that it's more attenuated in Isser. So certainly his Shviger's mother or his father-in-law's mother are more attenuated Isser. They're not as directly Usser as his mother-in-law. He's closer to his mother-in-law than he is to his mother-in-law parents. So we say Lamata's Kalamayla means we learn out the mother-in-law, the upper dar, which is less Usser. Imahi aim ima. So okay, fine. So Gemara. Imahi aim ima asura, afhu ima yasura. So we darshaned. Let's say, if we're saying that his mother, his wife's grandmother is going to be asa, right? We learn out the pasuk says chamoisai. It doesn't mean just chamoisai. It means aim chamoisai and aim chamav. Let's say the same thing legabe the man. Let's say his own mother will also asa his mother's mother. His mother's mother. I guess it should also apply to his father's mother. Let's say that they are both also asa to him, be it with an issa shreifa, and that's not the case. They are only asa midrabanan. It's a strange thing. No one would ever think of this. A man is only asa to be ba on his mother's mother. Midrabanan, midaraisa, there's no issa. The only issa we've seen is an issa deraisa to be ba on his wife's mother or grandmothers. So but the Gemara is saying with darshaning to equate he to his wife, right? We're saying that he is going to have, we're going to say zima zima to apply the same isurim to him, to zachar that we said to an nekeva. We said it the other direction, to say for his descendants. But why don't we say it also should apply to his forebears and say that he should also have an issa deraisa? So it would come out, if this were the case, there would be 12 isurim in the Mishnah. There'd be 4 groups rather than 3 groups. That means we have, basically, if you look at it as like a chart in your head, we say his wife, both her descendants as well as his wife's forebears are also. Those are 2 groups. And then there's the group of his own descendants that are also. But we don't have a isser on the man himself going upwards, his forebears. So why? But if we're darshaning zachar kenekeva, that his descendants are learned out with a heina and zima zima, why don't we say that will also teach that his forebears are us? Amar Baya, Amar Kra imchihi. Although a man is usher, I'm talking a little loosely. A man is usher on his own mother, but he's not usher on his mother's forebears. But the Torah, there's a miyat. The Torah says ervas avicha, ervas imcha loisagal. There's direct pasuk saying he's usher to his own mother, but imcha he tells you that that's where it ends. Her mother or his father's mother, there's no isser. That's Abaye's teretz. Rava Amar, no. We can exclude this drasha from a different svara. Bein laman Amar don mino. Whether you hold, now there's 2 ways of darshaning. This is a general rule when you darshan from someplace else. When you learn a isser, when you learn a isser, do you say that isser that you learned out from somewhere else, it's brought over together with all of its rules that are set in that other place, and you apply it here, or do you just learn the isser from there? So don mino says you learn not just the halacha that you're learning out, but also everything that surrounds it, all the surrounding rules also will apply. To apply what we're going to be saying over here, when we learn out there's an isser on, let's say, if we're going to learn out aim imay, if we would be learning out from the nekeva side to say that the zachar side, his mother's mother is also going to be aser, is just going to say that it's aser, is also going to bring along the isser shreifa, and would say that the isser shreifa will apply to his mother's mother. So whether you say damino that you do bring along all the isurim that come along with it, bein la'amad damino avuki ba'asr. Or according to Manam, it says, no, we wouldn't learn out also what type of misa it is. You just learn out that there's misa. Loy asya. In either case, you can't learn it out because there's going to be a kasha. Lamanda amadami nomina mahi aim ima mahi aim ima asura afhunami aim ima asura umina. We'd be learning out that aim ima is asura, just like his wife's mother's mother is asur, his own mother is asur, Umina, we to learn out that it had the same din would apply. Mahi b'sreifa, unami b'sreifa. Then his mother's mother would also get the din sreifa because that's where you're learning, the place you're learning it out from. It's sreifa, so this would also be a sreifa. So the mandam is sreifa chamura. So according to the mandam that says sreifa is more chamur than chanek.
Skila.
I'm sorry, what is imay?
Skila.
Skila. Mandam says you're right. The sreifa is more chamur than skila. Ikel mefach malich shein imay b'sreifa. Taima b'hu she'imay b'skila. How could you learn out aim imay from his wife's mother? His own mother is b'skila. How could you learn out that aim imay should be chayiv b'sreifa? How can you learn out something from something that's sreifa to something that his own isser, his isser of his mother is only b'skila? V'oid. And the second question, imay b'skila v'aim imay b'sreifa. How could it come out to be such a thing? You're learning out from there that his own grandmother should be b'sreifa. How could she get a more chamadik isser, end up with a more chamadik isser than his own mother? You're saying his grandmother is with the more chamadik and his own mother is a less chamadik. Void. Mahi lo chalakta ba bein ima le'emi ma'af hu nami lo techel bein ima le'emi ima. The place that you're learning from, there's no difference between imay and aimimay. They both have the same din. And now you're going to come out, you're going to say the place that you're learning it to, there's going to be a chiluk. That's all Lamanda Amar that Shreifa is chamur. Lamanda Amar skila chamur for mehai kusha loini daini. The first two problems can be addressed if you say that skila is more chamur. But the last problem, that they're not going to be equivalent, that imay and aimimay, that imay, his own mother, and his wife's mother, by his wife's mother, they're both the same. And by him, they're both different. Whether they're, whichever is Muhammad, that kasha will remain. According to the other mandam who says, let's just learn out from there that there's an isser on imay and aim imay. But we're not learning out the type of isser over there. Mahi. Mahi emi masura nami emi masura uki ba'asra hasnamu de b'sreif aval halcha b'skila kede ashkam be'imay. So we'll still have a problem. Lamanda b'sreif chamur kel mifrach malahi chashein imay b'sreif time b'hu she'imay b'skila. According to Manda Amr that says sreifa is chamura, how can you learn out from sreifa and apply something that's skila? You can't learn out from something that's more chamur to something that's less chamur. V'oid hu kihi. We should also, how could you be mechalik? We're saying by his wife, there's no chiluk between his descendants and his forebears. And now over here, we're going to have a chiluk because his own children is going to be b'streifa and his mother's mother is going to get skila. And this second question will remain even if you hold skila is chamura. Okay, we'll stop over here.
Wow. Thank you.